here at Wizard World Austin with comic book writing legend. I'll go legend.
Sure, let's go with
Let's Ron Marz. Ron, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you. Okay, so Ron, for me, probably best known for like creating Kyle Rayner.
Yeah, that's one of the items that'll be on my tombstone. I was fortunate enough to be the guy that they picked to be in the right place at the right time, and they being DC Comics just told me go make up a new Green Lantern, and they pretty much let the artist Darryl Banks and I just kind of make up what we wanted to, and obviously they approved it along the way, but Kyle is very much the product of what we wanted to do.
Well, it's the reason Kyle, you created Kyle at a time where I was like getting kind of like into comic books, and so I wasn't a huge Hal Jordan fan, but Kyle Rayner is like my GL, and even after Jeff Johns did his amazing run, he still kind of made Kyle Rayner like the best of them all, and you created that.
Well, it's really satisfying to still have something that's sort of a vital part of the DCU, and my guy's still there. That was one of the reasons that we created Kyle, is to kind of be a gateway into the DC universe and into DC Comics in general. And honestly, for me, it was my first regular monthly DC gig, so it's also a way for me to explore the DC universe and come in and get a guest appearance by Batman and get a guest appearance by Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel, and it was a chance for me to sort of have a travel log through the DC universe while Kyle was exploring the DC universe.
Now, and I'll let Jason do the next one, but I'm because Kyle is such a big thing for me. Why make him an artist? Like what? Because all the other Green Lanterns were like test pilot, Marine, architect. Guy was a bruiser, and here's Kyle like an artist and kind of.
Well, Green Lantern rings are about imagination. And so we didn't want a guy who was going to just make boxing gloves all the time. It's a special effects book. It's about what kind of cool stuff can you make with the ring, and so my notion was, well, let's have somebody with a really visual imagination get the ring so we can do cool stuff with it. One of the sort of unwritten rules that we had was that Kyle couldn't make the same thing twice with
Really?
Yeah, it had to. Even if it was going to be a robot, it had to be a different kind of robot, or an ancient warrior. One time it was going to be a samurai, and the next time it was going to be a Viking, and so we really tried for the entirety of the book to not repeat ourselves in terms of what he made with the ring.
That's badass.
So, Ron, when you're getting into comics yourself, what comics influenced you to take this career path?
I kind of rediscovered comics just at the tail end of high school, which was in the mid-'80s for me. And obviously at that point it was Dark Knight, Watchmen, Frank Miller's Daredevil, Walt Simonson's Thor, and then more independent stuff like Nexus and American Flag and Grendel. So, that 80s renaissance that, everybody points to, that's when comics grew up. Yeah. Well, that's when I was lured back into comics, and that was definitely the stuff that I was reading, along with Jim Starlin's stuff, who was the one that got me into comics. Jim Starlin's Dreadstar, and even earlier than that, his Warlock stuff. That's all the stuff that sort of showed me the storytelling possibilities of comics, and it wasn't that many years later I was actually doing it.
Well, Dark Knight and Watchmen are, seminal favorites. So many people say, well, yeah, that's my favorite, that's what got me into comics, or that's, those are two comics that are, I guess, are adult, and prove that comics can be mature.
Well, I think everybody equates mature with, sex and violence and the graphic nature that you can do in comics. I just look at it as they were those books were literature.
Yeah.
They were a step forward for the medium as a whole, and even the format of Dark Knight, what we called the prestige format then, 48 pages, square bound, really gorgeous editions that were different from the floppy 20-page comics that were everywhere else on the rack. It was a great time for comics to sort of evolve into what they became then, and really where we are now. I think those in particular were two huge books in terms of pushing the medium forward and then influencing the next generation of creators.
So right.
Now, because you've done so many different books, and I mean, the two big ones are Green Lantern and Silver Surfer, which, I mean, you're kind of like in a, I guess, prestige Hall of Fame for Silver Surfer, because, I mean, really, if you think Silver Surfer, it's Stan Lee, you, and then, I mean, I guess Mike and Laura Allred now, but I mean, you're in those pantheons now, or you have been, I should say. What's your writing process?
I just make up stuff, man.
Well, the reason I ask is Jeff Johns, like, I read, he takes like post-it notes and like, oh, that's cool, and he kind of forms a story. Everyone has their own process.
Yeah, I don't do post-it. I know a lot of guys who do, post-it notes or index cards. Mm-hmm. For me, it's just I've worked in the same, leather-bound notebook that I've had for 25 or 30 years, and I just keep replacing pages in it. And I have to sit down and do an issue. I write 1 through 20 or 1 through 22 down the left-hand side of the page and sort of pace out what's going to go into the issue. Just a little bit of information on each page. Each page has to move the story forward, or has to move a character forward. And that's really where all the real work is done. Mm-hmm. Is where you're sort of fitting your story into that package, because that's what comics are. You have a finite number of pages.
Right.
Put in a finite amount of information. Once I have that paced out and I know what's going to happen on each page, then I go back in, do the breakdowns of all the panels on each page, and write some dialogue notes. That's pretty much where that's where all the creative work is done. Once I get into typing up the script, things change and move around a bit, and there's some flexibility there. But most of the thinking has been done at that point, just on notebook paper. The aspect of sitting down and typing up the script is often more mechanical than not, because I figured it out already. Like at that point, I've got the story down in my head and I know how it's going to work out. And then it's a couple of days of typing to bang out all the descriptions and the dialogue. It goes off to the artist. I get the pages back from the artist, and then I go back in and rewrite all the dialogue to fit the art. And so that's really a two-step process for me.
Now, one writer to another, how do you solve writer's block? Because I get it all the damn time.
Well, first of all, there's no such thing as writer's block. There's, writer's block, and there's an excuse when you don't want to sit down and do the work. Look, I've been doing this for almost 30 years, and part of it is just ass in chair time. You got to sit down and do it. Now, I'm fortunate that I'm always working on a couple of different projects at least. So you're juggling a number of things. If project A isn't working today,
right,
you move on to project B, and you try to get something done each day. The rule of thumb for me is I try to get 5 pages of script done each day. If you can get 5 pages of script done each day, you can write an issue in a week, and the deadline train keeps moving. So if you're just stuck, work on something else. And or that's the other thing. I mean, take a walk. Do something other than sit down and say to yourself, "I'm going to have an idea," because that's not the way it works. The ideas come when they come. So take a drive, take a walk, take a shower. Like, the shower is the writer's secret weapon. You go have a shower, and you can't be on the internet. You can't be
true.
Just that sort of the white noise of the shower, and your mind sort of wanders. And a lot of times when I'm stuck for where I'm going to go, shower or walk in the woods or something, just anything other than sit at the desk and stare at the screen, your mind sort of becomes open to whatever out there in the ether is that delivers stories to us.
Okay. I needed that.
Doesn't believe in writer's block. Well, Ron, do you read? I guess this is maybe a dumb question, but what are you reading today?
I don't read as much as I should, because one of the deep dark secrets of comics is once you start doing them professionally, you don't have as much time to read as you want. So I read whatever I can get my hands on, and whatever I have time for. I love what Drew Baker and Sean Phillips do for Image. I read Daredevil. I read Batman. I read a bunch of independent stuff. Like there's actually never enough time for me to actually.
Because you're always working on something.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's always that lure of, well, you shouldn't be reading a comic. You should be sitting there writing one.
Yeah.
So one of the great things about the business that we find ourselves in now is that there's always more material, more good material than you have time to read. Just like there's more good TV shows.
Oh
now
God.
That you can ever catch up with.
Yeah.
There are more good comics than you can catch up with. So I get to what I can get, and at some point, the stack on the coffee table in my office just grows and grows. And, you keep up with what you can keep up with.
Well, hey, Ron, listen, man, thank you so much for giving us your time here. I know you're busy. I know, what's the con? They're always busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's I think this is the fourth con in a row for me.
Is it really?
Which is not the way this is supposed to work out. Like this is way too much. But so I try to space out the con appearances because you need to get work done. And the travel is a grind. But just the way the schedule worked out and some of the offers I got for visiting exotic foreign locales sort of slipped in between like Austin and Madison, Wisconsin. I was in Malta last weekend.
Oh wow!
So some of the offers are just too good to turn down.
Yeah, you can't pass that up.
So this is I think number 4 of 6 in a row.
Damn.
And then I will pass out in December.
Cool, man.
Well, hey Ron, thank you so much,
Thanks,
man. I appreciate
guys. It's a
it.
pleasure. Happy to do it.